Channel 7. This is Viewpoint.
Welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Doug Petcash. It's that time of year, time to go back to school. Districts across the state are opening up for the fall semester. It's coinciding with a big surge of coronavirus cases that's leading to more hospitalizations and more deaths. This is now the third school year affected by the pandemic. Many districts are recommending that students, teachers, and staff wear masks, so wearing them is optional. In the Boise School District, it's mandatory. All students, teachers, and staff have to wear a mask. The district just wrapped up its first full week of in-person classes. The school board voted for the mask mandate earlier this month because of concerns about the Delta variant of COVID and the rising case count. According to the district, more than 60% of parents they surveyed were very clear that they wanted the board to closely monitor the situation and act accordingly, including revisiting the use of face coverings and/or masks. The district is also still offering a remote learning option for those who are uncomfortable going to school. And keep this in mind, the youngest students are not vaccinated at all against COVID. The vaccine is not approved yet for kids under 12. And a relatively small number of students between 12 and 17 are vaccinated. The state reports 19% of Idaho kids between 12 and 15 are fully vaccinated. 27% in that age group have gotten at least one dose. 28% of 16 and 17-year-olds are fully vaccinated. 34% have gotten at least one shot. Coming up later, I'll talk with Dan Holler, the Public Affairs Administrator for the Boise School District, about how the first week went and the safety measures they have in place. First, though, we're going to look at the overall statewide view and what the state is doing to help districts meet the challenges of another school year affected by COVID. My first guest is Superintendent of Public Instruction, Sherry Ibarra. Good morning, and thanks again for your time.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's good to see you. So first of all, how concerned are you about the Delta variant and the case surge we're seeing now just as school gets back in session?
Well, I think we have to be very cognizant of what we are being told by our health officials. We have to be very careful. We have to make sure that we have lots of resources out there available. But I do know that we need to be respectful of other people's choices. There's no easy answer to this. And so I think that's why I'm such a huge proponent of local control. Those decisions are made best at the local level. But we do need to make sure that the public has all the information possible, up-to-date information. They know what's expected. They know how to mitigate, and then making sure that, like I said, there's no easy answer to this. There is no one size fits all. We all need to be respectful of other people's choices, and then folks need to make the best decision for them moving forward.
So what is the Department of Education doing this year to support districts in efforts to keep kids, teachers, and staff safe?
I think it would be much easier to say what we're not doing, Doug, to make sure that every school district in the state of Idaho has those resources that I talked about earlier so that they can make the best decision for their community. The short answer is we're doing everything we can. My staff's always available to answer questions. We've had lots of webinars around COVID relief funds. We have a back to school website on my department, an easy page with back to school guidance on the latest data and resources and federal guidelines around COVID and how to prioritize health and safety for our students. We've worked with the Department of Health and Welfare to provide the latest guidance around and information around testing. Of course, that is a local decision and you need parental permission to do that, but there is a resource there in case a district is interested in something like that, because like you said earlier, there could be a surge in cases coming. And we want to make sure that schools stay open. That is our number one priority. That is why I brought forward that in-person learning bill. So I encourage families and educators to pursue that information on our back to school page. It covers everything from pandemic relief funds to social distancing, to masking on buses, to food services. So I encourage everyone to read that.
Oregon Governor Kate Brown just announced Thursday that all K-12 staff will be required to be vaccinated. Is there any discussion of a mask mandate for schools in Idaho?
Absolutely not. There is no mask mandate and there is no vaccine mandate. Again, we just need to be respectful of other people's choices. There's no vaccine mandate for the typical vaccines that you get when you go to school. So why would COVID be any different? I mean, that's the same rule. But again, we need to make sure that the public has all the information possible so that they can make that informed decision for themselves.
Governor Little is directing $30 million toward expanded COVID-19 testing in Idaho K through 12 schools to help meet the need. How will that work?
Again, that is a local decision and you need parental permission for that. But we have worked with the Department of Health and Welfare on that to provide the latest information to help schools and families make that decision. It is a resource. There is a back to school guidance around that, and there is a roadmap that districts can follow if they're interested in that. For example, maybe they see a surge in cases and they think, well, maybe this is what we need to do. They go in and make that decision. They look at the roadmap and start making decisions about where they can send families for testing, where they can do contact tracing. But again, I want to emphasize it's a local decision and you need parental permission.
So it'll be a district could tap into those funds and then also provide testing actually in the school?
It's a testing menu. How they want to do that will be completely up to them, yes, but they'll have access to that resource.
Got it. Okay, so is there still COVID relief money left to help schools buy PPE supplies like sanitizer and masks?
Absolutely, there is. Schools got several rounds of COVID relief funds, close to $1 billion. Each school, I have a sheet that says what each school got and what they are using their money for. So there is absolutely, there is money there for mitigation strategies like masks and hand sanitizer. And there are several businesses that have partnered with us that I get emails every day saying if there's a district that needs masks, there's a district that needs hand sanitizer. I mean, the community has really stepped up to the plate. I know when this all first started, my department went out to every region of the state and delivered these huge drums of hand sanitizer to the districts. All they had to do was bring their own pump bottles. And so there's lots of resources out there around PPE. We also delivered thermometers to make sure every district had a thermometer in their possession in case they had a sick child and they didn't have that resource. So there's plenty of people out there ready to help, but there's also funds for that opportunity.
How much did the remote learning and uncertainty of last year hurt student learning?
Our gut told us that would hurt our students' academic achievement, and we are just barely starting to scratch the surface on that. As you know, it wasn't safe to test kids the year before last until we came up with a way to do that safely. So we had a remote option. We had a couple different options, and we were finally able to administer those tests this past school year. Those results were released, and we are seeing slight dips in, not as big as I thought they were going to be, but there's still a decline in achievement for our students. And so I think we will continue to see that for years to come, is what the teacher in me says. And this test scores are beginning to show that. But again, we only have one round of testing. It's too early to speculate, but we are beginning to see how that affected our students. That's why I was a huge supporter of in-person learning, brought that bill forward. It should be the number one choice for our kids, but we also need to have other options, like the Boise School District, how they've gotten really creative with it. Parents don't feel good about sending their kids in person, that they're going to make an online option for those parents.
There is so much uncertainty, and a lot of the kids are dealing with anxiety about going back to school or having to wear masks or whatever the issue is. And you've talked a lot about social emotional learning and those aspects of returning to school. What's being done to provide that kind of support for those who may be feeling that anxiety?
Social emotional learning and mental health are essential to academics. And while we are really focused on making sure that we recover academically, at the same time, we need to make sure that we are focused on the mental and emotional aspect of a student's school career. We are beginning to see a new group of at-risk students come forward. And what we mean by that is we used to define that as our English language learners, at-risk kids. We used to define that as kids of poverty, but we're now seeing a group of students come forward who were top performers in academics who are now seeing a struggle. And so my department put together a committee of nearly 90 people from all over the state, from officials to school folks. And they put together strategies to really address the learning conditions in the classroom for our students. Things like coping skills, providing mental health supports. They talked about making licensure easier for our social workers. We actually talked about this yesterday in Rexburg at Capitol for a day as well. So we are working also to identify ongoing training for our K through 12 teachers around social, emotional, professional development and how we can help our students be not only socially and emotionally successful, but also academically successful. Those two things go together. Again, I sat on the governor's task force for improving education, and someone on the task force said it beautifully. Academics goes out the window if a student's social emotional needs are not met.
We just have about a minute and a half left. What are you hearing from people? As you said, you were out in Rexburg this past week with the governor for Capitol for a day, and I know you've talked to other people. What is it that you're hearing from parents and teachers and the public about COVID?
I think the number one concern, well, there's two things that I'm hearing. One is, of course, the mask mandate, to mask or not to mask. That is a debate and a concern. And the other concern is just keeping our schools open. You know, with that discussion around our numbers are starting to rise, you know, how do we keep our schools open? And I think schools are doing the best they can. We can't always
We've seemed to
other people's choices, making sure that we have resources at the local level so that our school boards who make those decisions and have the authority to make those decisions work with their local health districts to make the best decision in their local community, and making sure that the number one option is in-person learning. And then after that is online options and different hybrid models for students who may need that option.
We just have a short time left. I want to switch topics to something lighter. I understand that you're pretty excited about your new Student Advisory Council that's going to be meeting for the first time in September. I know we don't have much time, but what is that and what's its purpose?
Oh my goodness, I am so excited. I'm so glad you asked. It is a group of students that I am putting together from all over the state of Idaho. From fourth grade all the way to their senior year. I have boys, I have girls, I have representation from all over the state to talk about what they think will help improve education, how the pandemic went for them, moving forward, how we may want to address the learning loss, the social emotional supports. And I will just tell you, we had close to 60 applicants. We're meeting on September the 20th. I almost can't stand myself. The educator in me is just so excited to get to know everybody, but their top priorities were social emotional learning, time management skills, and they want more real life experiences after reading their application. So they're right on track with the decisions that we're making at the state level.
Thank you so much for your time today. I do appreciate you giving us an update heading into this new school year about the state's handling of the COVID situation and helping the districts. Thanks.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.
So how did the first week of classes go in the Boise School District, and why did the school board vote for a mask mandate? We'll get the district's viewpoint after the break.
Oh yeah, dude, that doesn't look good.
I know what to do. I'm going to castnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, and if approved, I can have the money as soon as the same business day.
Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need.
Other masks have only 3 layers of protection. Introducing Air Police 4, the face mask with 4. That's right, 4 layers of protection. Shipped directly to you from our USA warehouse. Air Police uses 4 layers of high-performance fabric with a cutting-edge, melt-blown electrostatic inner core. And our one-size-fits-all flexible ear straps are comfortable for all-day wear, with a customizable nose piece for a secure fit and the breathability to wear your glasses fog-free. Get Air Police 4 with 4 layers of protection for just $1.99 each. Order right now and receive special pricing for as low as 99 cents and get free shipping. Plus, you can get an extra large bottle of our best-selling Hanbana HydroClean hand sanitizer. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Order now.
Call 1-800-201-0343 or visit airpolice4.com. So call 1-800-201-0343 or visit airpolice4.com. Order now.
This is Pretty Litter, the world's smartest cat litter. Its ultralight, super absorbent formula traps odors, and its crystals change colors to help you monitor your cat's health. Plus, Pretty Litter offers free delivery. Order today at prettylitter.com.
Nobody likes an awkward silence, but you can actually use it for something good.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places.
Welcome back to Viewpoint. Today we're focusing on back to school amid another COVID surge. The Boise School District will start week 2 of classes tomorrow. My guest is Boise School District Public Affairs Administrator Dan Holler. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Doug. Good to see you. Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're welcome, and thanks for making the time. Well, you have your first full week of classes under your belts and behind your masks. How did it go?
Yep. You know, and looking back on this first week, it's gone very well. We had a lot of reports from our schools that the students and the staff were excited to be back in-person learning 5 days a week. Of course, everybody recalls last year we were not able to do that. We started remotely last year. So we are thankful that we are able to start in-person learning. That's where we know the best learning occurs for our students. And the key now is to make sure that we can continue to operate in-person learning for 5 days a week for our students, for each and every student that wants to be in person. And we're committed to doing that by following the mitigation protocols that we have in place that we know work because they worked last year. And so we're committed to doing that going forward.
So what's it going to take to keep the school open all year?
You know, it's going to take that support that we are already seeing in our schools. And when we connected with our schools this week, the reports that we received were that our parents and our families and our students and our staff, that they are following those mitigation protocols, the universal mask wearing, the physical distancing to the best of our ability, the hand sanitation, the disinfecting, all those things that we know work, and that in consultation with our healthcare providers, CDC, Central District Health, that we continue to monitor the evolving nature of this pandemic and adjust our plans accordingly. And as we've seen, this pandemic is not over. And so we need to continue to protect one another and again, protect the operation of the school system.
So why did the school board vote to implement the mask mandate?
Well, certainly because of the pandemic and certainly the high rate of transmission that we're seeing in our local area here. There's no doubt that we are seeing the impact of the virus in our community. All you need to do is turn to the data that we receive on a regular basis from Central District Health that shows that we are in the red category. That's indicated, and that what that means is we're in a high transmission situation where the virus is spreading, and we need to do everything in our control to be able to keep the virus out of our schools. And that means communicating with our families about what the mitigation protocols are, making sure that our families understand, don't send children to school, and for that matter, staff, if they're not feeling well that day. So we have like a wellness checklist that people can go through. And again, that we all do our part to get back to what we all want to get back to, which is a sense of normalcy, to continue to operate in such a way that serves all of our students. Again, we know the best learning occurs face-to-face with that teacher, that highly qualified, dedicated teacher. We're committed to keeping that going, but it depends on the support of the public. And so far we're seeing that. We appreciate that and we're very grateful for it.
You had a survey that you put out, I believe it was in July, asking parents about their feelings on the COVID situation. What did you learn from that?
Actually, it was in June. You know, at that time, the case rate was far less than it is right now. Things change. And so it was a snapshot in time. And so the one thing we pulled out of that survey that is still true to this day is that the public, our parents, more than about 60% of them wanted us to continue to monitor and adjust our COVID-19 response plan accordingly. So we're committed to doing that, just as we did last year, just as we've been doing since really the early stages of this pandemic. So we meet regularly with Central District Health, with our partners at St. Luke's and St. Al's, and making sure that we learn about what is happening in our community right now, what the hospital capacity is, what the virus is doing to our community. And again, making sure that we're doing everything within our power to communicate about the needs of the mitigation protocols. Again, the focus for the district, for our school district, is to make sure that we protect that in-person 5 days a week learning. And we need everybody's support to be able to do that. And so far, we're getting that. We appreciate it.
Have you had any protests against the mask mandate or a lot of feedback or comments against it?
You know, this week we did not receive any reports from our schools about organized protests. Certainly, we had some individuals show up at board meetings early on. And certainly, you know, we understand their level of disappointment. We share their disappointment from the standpoint of having to reinstate the mask mandate that we had all of last year. Because we'd rather not have it in place, but we cannot ignore the COVID-19 data, and we need to understand what the virus is doing in our community and how it's potentially impacting our hospital capacity and those things that play a role in the quality of life for all of us. And again, the mask mandate, after the board made that decision to reinstate it on August 3rd, we were inundated with a lot of emails, the vast majority of communication from our patrons and parents indicating they support returning to universal mask wearing. And that's a local decision. And certainly that is one that our public supports. And we're seeing that support by adherence to that mask wearing in our schools.
And Dan, Boise School District is offering still the option of remote learning for students. How does enrollment in that compare to last year?
Yeah, great question, Doug. Appreciate that. You know, Boise Online School is a remote platform that operates and provides services. It's all about choice for our families. If students and families are not comfortable going back in person, we have Boise Online School. And last year at its height, we had about 4,000 students enrolled in Boise Online School. Right now, that compares to about 330 that are enrolled in Boise Online School. So I think you can look at that data and you can say to yourself, well, that's an indication students and families want to be back in person. So it's important, again, for us to follow those mitigation protocols.
Governor Little is directing $30 million toward expanded COVID-19 testing in Idaho K through 12 schools to help meet the need. Do you know how that will work yet?
You know, we've reached out to the governor's office this week, and we are interested in hearing more details about that. We're awaiting further information. I will tell you, though, we are supportive of mitigation protocols that control the virus, those types of things. And so, you know, from that standpoint, we're supportive of making sure that our students remain safe and secure in that regard, but we're waiting for further details about what that means, how to apply for those funds, what they can be used for. Particularly, you talked about testing. That was an announcement that came out last week. And again, we await further details on that.
Dan, when you and I talked the other day, you mentioned that you basically had 5 first days of school last year.
That's
you
right.
started with all virtual learning, then went to hybrid, then back to virtual, then to hybrid again, and finally all in at the end, the last part of the year. Are you confident that you'll be able to just have one first day this year?
That is our hope. That is our desire. That is our goal. And again, we're committed to making sure that we can follow those mitigation protocols that allow us to remain in-person instruction 5 days a week. We understand that last year was a challenge for a number of students, and making sure that we continue to offer not only Boise Online School for those who don't want to be in person, but the focus needs to be, and it is in the Boise School District, to continue to ensure those students who want to be in person can do so safely Monday through Friday in front of their educated professional, their educator who can provide that education that prepares them for success in college, career, and citizenship. That's what we're all about. And yeah, last year we hope that we don't repeat it. And again, we cannot emphasize enough, and this is a call to the public, do your part to control the virus. Don't bring it into school. Check yourself every day. Make sure you're feeling well and practice those mitigation protocols that keep us all safe.
Yeah, if you're not feeling well, Stay home. That is for sure. Dan Holler, Public Affairs Administrator with the Boise School District. Thank you for your time today and giving all that update for us.
You're welcome, Doug. Have a great school year.
Yes. Best wishes on a great school year to you as well.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
I'll be back to wrap things up.